Spring practice has begun in preparation for the 2026 football season, and SMU's running back room is looking pretty intriguing.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. My name's Grayson Singleton. Coming up on the show today, more reaction to Jason Hart's addition to the SMU basketball coaching staff and what it could mean for roster construction going forward. Plus, the freshman offensive line. Have you seen them? I'll tell you about it if you haven't to close up the show. But let's jump right into the show today. And the running back room is one that was pretty interesting last year, and it's going to be pretty interesting this year because there's been changes, there's been guys moved, and oh, by the way, there's been guys who are looking the part as well. So if you were unaware, spring practice began yesterday for SMU in preparation for next season. And with the advent of spring practice, the other thing you get is a spring football roster. And I was going through that last night. And let me tell you, some of this stuff looks very, very interesting. And for one of the big things that stood out to me was the size of this SMU backfield at running back. And not just the size, but the versatility of it as well, to where it's got me wondering, man, how could they really utilize all of these guys? So if you look at the running back room, you've got the transfer from Cal, Kendrick Raphael at 5'11", 200. Solid size. You've got Jermico Green at 6 foot 203. Very solid size. Derek McFall, guy you could use as a running back, wide receiver, tweener, scat back type of player. 5'11", 187. I think he fits the mold of that. Christian Rhodes, 6'1", 205. SMU's highest rated signee in the 2026 recruiting class out of high school. Looks the part. But then, and I didn't name everybody, there's reporting that Link Rhodes, who we knew of as a wide receiver for the Mustangs, is now reportedly a running back at 6'2", 200 on the roster. So not only do they look the part, but if you think about the ways they experimented with McFall at the end of the year, Link Rhodes has a wide receiver background. Now we start to look at this as a situation and say, no matter who's on the field, SMU is automatically dangerous because you don't know what they're going to be doing. You don't know what the Mustangs are going to do if Kendrick Raphael is on the field. He can run the ball in between the tackles, outside zone, and he can catch it out of the backfield. You don't know what they're going to do with Link Rhodes. He could slash you up the middle. But obviously he has a wide receiver background. Derek McFall the same way. Jermico Green, more of a power back with a lot of speed, by the way. Christian Rhodes, what kind of run does he get in his freshman year? Because it seems like he looks the part. At 6'1", 205 pounds out of Lake Highlands. It seems like he looks the part. Does EJ Kelly factor in? Obviously, there's going to be a odd man out. Right, so not everybody's going to get some run. But when you look at how you stack a running back room, you've got your prized guy. That's going to be Kendrick Raphael, who I think is going to have a big season. And then behind him, you've got a bunch of guys who are going to be good at certain things and can spell your number one. Like, I think Derek McFall and Link Rhodes, this is me hypothesizing on how they're going to be used, are going to be used in a litany of ways. Yeah, you can hand them the ball, but you can motion them out of the backfield into an empty set and get those dudes matched up with a linebacker. There's a lot of creativity that you can use these guys for. Jermico is a guy that you could also use in a 3-down back type of situation. Obviously, he's not going to be out there 3 downs, But you can use him as, all right, I could run inside zone with him. I can swing it out to him if need be, run a stretch play with him. And then Christian Rhodes is the one that I'm curious to see. What are you going to get out of him your freshman year? What are you going to get? Because he's got good speed. He's very hard to tackle. Your question was going to be, aside from the mental things, too, of grasping a collegiate offense, but your question was going to be, is he ready physically? 6'1", 205. Looks like he is to me. So, when you look at this running back room, you see a lot of good size. I see a lot of good size here. And I'll do a different show on the wide receivers, probably tomorrow to close out the week. But if you continue looking through the spring football roster, you know another thing that really stands out to me? Going back to the 2026 recruiting class, Aldra Miles is 6'3", 210 pounds. That screams monster to me. And I don't know if he's going to be a monster in his freshman year. I don't think that's how that's going to end up shaking out. But that's a dude for the future. Holy smokes. 6'3", 210 in your freshman year, and we know the skill set that Aldra Miles possesses. Look, I don't know if he can have a Jalen Cooper type of freshman year if the opportunity finds itself for him to do that. I don't know if he'll replicate that in terms of immediate, instant impact. But I think that guy's going to have a career. And you look at the wide receiver room. Again, we'll go more in depth with this another day. They got some size on them. They have got some size on these cats for SMU. But going back to the running back room just for a second, when you have to overhaul pretty much the entire room, you lost so much of your carries from last year, whether it's to the graduation of TJ Harden or Chris Johnson Jr. transferring to Clemson. You had to replace a lot. You had to replace a big chunk of your offense. Now, does that mean you just had to replace them and not try to get better? Absolutely not. But I do think they replaced them, and I think they got better. Because I think Kendrick Raphael is a lot more dynamic than TJ Harden was. And it looked as if some of the mental stuff wasn't there with Chris Johnson Jr. And instead of him, you've got Dramico and Derek, who are in multiple years in the system. And then a guy you recruited out of high school in Christian Rhodes. So I think this running back room not only looks impressive so far, but I think they've improved. I think they've gotten better than what they were in 2026. Coming up next, as Locked On SMU continues, Jason Hart is the new assistant coach for SMU. What does this mean for the Mustangs roster construction looking ahead to the 26-27 season? I'll tell you about that coming up next. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you got to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who actually check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time interviewing people who check all of your boxes, such as skills, experience, and location. It's less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move along with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and clear swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Want to tell you about the Everydayer Club as well. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free when you use code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat as well. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to claim your free month. All right, welcome back to the show. Grayson Singleton here on Locked On SMU. And let's talk some hoops for a second, because Jason Hart is the new assistant head coach under Andy Enfield. The two worked together over at USC from 2013 to 2021. And the thing with Jason Hart that stands out is this. When he was under Mark Pope, the 2 years in Lexington, Kentucky, their transfer portal hauls were outstanding. They paid players, they got players, and then we saw what happened. Sometimes it was a little disappointing, some of their results. But nevertheless, he is a well-connected guy. He has ties to the G League. He coached there until G League Ignite was disbanded. And he can bring in good players. He can really bring in some good players. Went through this yesterday in the bonus episode, so if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. But you look at the guys that they brought in the transfer portal during Mark Pope's 2 years at Kentucky. Otega Owe, perhaps the best big shot maker in all of college basketball. Andrew Carr from Wake Forest was a big get. Brandon Garrison from Oklahoma State has continued to improve. Mohamed Diabate, who was a really key player for them this year, brought him in. Kobe Brea, sharpshooter, who now is in the NBA with the Phoenix Suns, brought him in from Dayton. So they've been able to get guys from the Power Four and from the mid-major ranks as well in terms of cobbling together rosters. Lamont Butler, another guy that they brought in from San Diego State. So under Jason Hart's recruiting craftiness, Kentucky was able to put together a nice roster. And that's what SMU needs to do, because SMU is losing guys like Boopie Miller, BJ Edwards, Corey Washington, Jerron Pierre Jr. That's four guys that made major impacts for them. I would say the top four guys. Now, hopefully you can retain Samet Igatolu. Hopefully you can retain Jaden Toombs. That would be an excellent start. You've got Jermaine O'Neal, who's going to be in his second year. And then you've got some freshmen that are going to be coming up even more. Not to mention Cam Lomax is going to join the team from Frisco Heritage next season. So you've got some young guys, but you need some veterans, because this is a win-now situation, because there's not going to be a whole lot of patience going forward for Andy Enfield and his tenure if they don't provide something spectacular this year. So Jason Hart's ability to build out, or at least assist in building out a roster, is going to be huge, especially with the fact that he and Andy have a good rapport with each other, so he can go out and be a good ambassador for Andy Enfield, recruiting people to come play in Dallas, Texas. Now, where this leads us naturally, if you follow some of the recruiting stuff and you follow G League stuff, where this naturally leads us to is Dink Pate. And Dink Pate is a guy who's had a pretty interesting career. He is from Dallas. Dink Pate is from Dallas, but he's now been playing in the G League for a minute. And his G League career kind of got off to a weird start. Sure, he was averaging in double figures, but if you look at his numbers, they weren't great, especially his shooting percentages. Now, lo and behold, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, but he has been in the G League for 3 years now. And every single year, he's 20 years old, by the way. So he's not even aged out of college basketball. And that's a whole different discussion we can have about guys coming from the G League to college basketball. I've got my thoughts on it. I'm pretty sure you've got yours. But the kid just turned 20 years old. And this year in the G League, his three-point percentage has skyrocketed. Year one in the G League, shot 21% from three. Awful. Year two, shot 26%. Pretty bad. Year three, the 2025-26 season, 37% from three. Points per game averages, 8 points in year one, 10 points in year two, a shade under 16 in year three. Because of course it would. You're going from an 18-year-old playing against grown men trying to make an NBA roster to now you've been doing it for 3 years. So this is a guy who has really improved his game over the last couple of years. Minutes have gone up, shot has gone up, percentages have gone up, averages have gone up. Also an athletic dude as well that can provide you something defensively. Just over 5 rebounds a game and just under 4 assists per game. Dink Pate is a natural fit given what SMU needs and given his connection to a guy like Jason Hart. So I think that Dink Pate could easily sign with SMU given he is rewarded the clearance to be able to do so. And I don't necessarily see an argument as to why he wouldn't. It's not like he's 25, 26 years old. Never appeared in an NBA game. Just been in the G League. Is it the most traditional thing to do? No. But I look at him and he's 20. This is his third year out of high school. So I'm cool with that. He's going to play against people his same age. I'm cool with it. Not the greatest thing in the world, but you're not going to find any opposition from me, whether he was doing this at SMU or, I don't know, TCU. Right? You weren't going to find any opposition from me on that one. But that would be a good start. Veteran guy can bring some size to the backcourt, 6'8", 210, and he's a guard. He's a 6'8" guard that can go get buckets and can play with other people. So I like where we're going here. If Dink Pate is to sign with SMU and Jason Hart leverages that connection, that would be a really good start. But he also has connections to the West Coast. Obviously, coaching out there at USC certainly helps. But this is a man who is widely connected in the world of getting younger dudes to play at his school. And if they could get about 3, maybe 4 veteran guys that can really get buckets and are athletic, if they can get more athletic, obviously keep the scoring, and then get bigger in the backcourt to where they could be a better defensive team, this SMU roster starts to look very intriguing, and next season looks to show a little bit of promise. The ACC continually, I think, is going to be an 8 to 10 bid league. And what that means is, especially with Miami playing good basketball, and what that means is, as long as you're in the top half of the conference, you're going to be in the NCAA tournament. Not to mention, we have no idea what NC State's going to do because it looks like Will Wade might be going back to LSU. So I look at this situation, and I think the Jason Hart edition is a very good one. I don't know if it's a home run hire yet. I'm not going to go over the moon from that perspective. But if you look at what SMU needs in the immediate, roster construction, bigger guards, veteran players, seems to be Jason Hart's forte. So I think he fits for what SMU needs right now. Coming up next, we'll finish this one out talking about the freshman offensive linemen. Could we see them in a game? It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a show near you and book your appointment. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that is bucket list stuff. The hard part is always actually getting the tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, and surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. And it's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time and at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is going to be what you pay, period. And the seat view feature is my favorite and a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your exact seat before you buy the ticket. So no stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, final segment here on Locked On SMU on this Thursday edition of the show. One of the things I also noticed from the football roster that was released going into spring practices was the size of the freshman offensive line. Now, the offensive line, we talked about this the other day, but the right side seems to be pretty much solidified with Nichols, Bates, and P.J. Williams. Center, guard, tackle. But the left side is interesting. Now, you've got guys like Dramond Odoms, who is going to probably have a heads up in a race like that. But then you've got guys like Andrew Chamblee, the redshirt senior, who, by the way, checks in at 6'6", 308. Dramond Odoms, by the way, is 6'6", 318 as a redshirt freshman. But look at the freshman offensive line. I'm going to read these off to you from the released football roster, and you tell me about the size of some of these dudes. Papungatoa Katoa. He's a guard, 6'4", 335. Evan Goodwin, the tackle from Arkansas, 6'7", 325. Pretty solid. Max Wright, the kid that Garen Justice got flipped from Texas late in the cycle, from Melissa, 6'8", 315. Drew Evers, interior offensive lineman, 6'5", 305, likely going to need to put on some more weight. Sam Utu, kid that got flipped from Alabama, interior offensive lineman, 6'5", 330. And then, yeah, that looks pretty good. Is anybody else? Is anybody in opposition of that? They look like they got a pretty good haul. Now, time will tell, and ultimately they would probably have to be presented with the opportunity because of poor play or injury to get on the field. But if you're telling me 6'6", 325-pound Evan Godwin, couldn't get onto the football field his freshman year, at least with that size, size-wise, he's capable. Size-wise, he's absolutely capable, as is Max Wright. There's been reports out there that people are intrigued by Max Wright. Now, do I want true freshmen out there as my tackles in a power conference? Not necessarily. Probably not the ideal situation, obviously, but it looks as if at least physically they're going to be capable if their number has to be called. But I think Garen Justice did a hell of a job recruiting dudes who, by the time they got to campus, have the requisite size to be able to compete. And that's all you want from freshmen. There's a lot of growing room. There's always going to be growing room when it comes to freshmen. But can you get them on campus and they look the part? Is a really good question. And it's a good problem to have, especially if they're already there. Like a lot of these cats I just read off are already there. And again, I don't expect them to jump right in and play. I don't expect to see them on the field this year. But the fact that they're 18 years old and they're right where they need to be, sign me up for that. Sign me up for a true freshman who's 6'6" and 325 pounds. I will take that. You're not going to get a complaint from me on that one. Sign me up for an interior offensive lineman who is about 330 pounds, ready to go. Sign me up for a Max Wright who's 6'8", 315 as a true freshman. And guys like Evan Goodwin and Max Wright, who put really good stuff on tape during their senior years of high school, sign me up for guys who already have the framework and the build, and all they need now is some experience, get in the strength and conditioning room, and be ready to go. Sign me up for that. I'm cool with it. And I think what SMU did recruiting the offensive line position was historic by SMU standards. The class was historic by SMU standards. It was their highest rated finish in the internet recruiting era. But when you look at the individual parts that made up the whole, SMU's program is moving in the right direction. And what Garen Justice did and what Garen Justice now has to work with is fantastic. They'll figure out the left side of the offensive line because they've got talent. Is it going to be a redshirt senior, Andrew Chombley? Or is it going to be a highly touted redshirt freshman in Dramont Odoms? Pretty good problem to have. That is a pretty good problem to have, in my opinion, to go along with a right side that could be one of the better right sides in all of college football, at least in the ACC. So when you look at it from that perspective, sound pretty good to me. Sounds pretty good, especially if you can keep guys healthy. Because one of the things with PJ and even Savion Byrd last year was that they were in and out of the lineup. And when they were in the lineup, a lot of times they were banged up. So if you can get through spring and get through the season healthy, we could see some pretty interesting things from this SMU offensive line unit coached by our man Garen Justice. But it'll be interesting to see if they can be able to actually pull that off. But for right now, when you look at the freshman offensive line, nothing but excitement for them. Oh, by the way, one last thing to close up the show. Kevin Jennings is 192. So he's added a little muscle to that frame. Still slight, but that's Kevin Jennings' build. But as long as he adds a little bit of muscle to that frame every year, I'm good with it. I am more than good with it. So that's just one little note to close up the show. That'll do it for Locked On SMU. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day. Hey, make sure you come back with us tomorrow. We'll close up the week. We'll talk about that wide receiver room that I really, really like, including, like I mentioned earlier today, Alger Miles. Hey, make sure you make Locked On College Basketball your second listen of the day on audio. And those of you on YouTube, go check out our 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel available within the Locked On Podcast Network channel. All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.